Throughout history, certain questions have been pondered in every age. What is behind this thing called life? Is there something more? What does the secular world say? Can the Bible be trusted to answer the tough questions that haunt us? Bill Tanzi and Clay Hamilton on this podcast, they'll be discussing what the secular world and the sacred scriptures say about important questions that beg for answers. And now, here's Bill Tanzi.
Well, welcome everyone to this inaugural episode of The Secular and the Sacred. My name is Dr. Bill Tanzi. I'm joined with my partner here, Mr. Clay Hamilton, who is a first-class historian, scientist, and researcher. And today we're going to begin to look at, that is, how science and the scriptures complement each other, as well as where they disagree, but where they ultimately coalesce. So where to begin, we thought perhaps the best beginning would be at the beginning. So we are going to start today with the origins of all of this. Throughout history, men and women have pondered a big question. How did all this happen? Where did I come from? What's this all about? How did any of it occur as it is? So since history began, those questions have been asked. And with our commitment to accuracy in this series, we want to find out, what does the world say, what does science say, and what do the sacred scriptures say? So we're going to begin with Clay describing some of the recent phenomena that we are finding with research of scientists as we are looking at the origins of the universe. Clay?
Thank you, Bill. Following up on your comments about mankind always curious and always looking heavenward, some indications of the curiosity of man go back to ancient times, as you said, and sometimes it gets them in trouble, such as Galileo, who very audaciously posited that the Earth was circumnavigating the sun, contrary to church teaching. Anyway, things have cleared up somewhat. Beginning in earlier times, after we have modern observatories and space shuttle photographs, a number of different ideas and theories about how the universe operates and what it's all about have occurred. For example, there is a theory, formally, that there was a multi-universe, more universes than the one we have observed. Secondly, there's one called the cyclic theory. The cyclic theory holds that the universe expands and contracts with new matter being created and matter lost. And then there's the steady state theory. That theory holds that the universe was eternal. It always existed and it always will. But about 1990, with the advent of the Hubble Space Telescope, they came to a new conclusion about the universe. It was a marvel of engineering and scientific development. The Hubble Space Telescope was put into orbit around the Earth at a distance of some 340 miles, which was very advantageous because it put the telescope beyond even the wisp of an atmosphere. So the telescope is able to discern light coming from very far away.
And Clay, that was a game changer, wasn't it?
It was a game changer. Indeed, it
changed everyone's perspective and many theories. I recall being in a doctor's office when they had these things called magazines before the internet, and Time magazine did a cover story, Time or Newsweek, on the Hubble telescope and the images that were coming back. And a professor at Cal Poly Institute said, "We always thought this was random there was no order to it. It was serrated. It was just chaotic. He said, now as we're seeing just the closer image of the cosmos, it is of order. It's symmetrical. It looks like, he said, quote unquote, a piece of sculpture. And I wrote in the margin, I'll never forget, he needs to meet the sculpture, because it is.
Yeah,
he needs to meet the sculptor, I should say, because that sculpture has a grand design to it. And we're just seeing, as you said, just a tiny particle of it.
That's right. And the ability of the Hubble Space Telescope is so advanced that it was able to see objects, light coming from objects, as far away as 13.4 billion light years away. Now, light travels pretty fast, as you know. It covers a distance. Light is produced by photons that have no mass, and they travel very rapidly. The Hubble telescope completely changed the way the human scientific mind views the universe. It was observed that, first, there were some cosmic rays that were permeating the existing universe, as we have observed, and these rays were tabbed as some of the beginnings of the universe, some of the very early emanations from the universe and its creation. Secondly, there is a great abundance in the universe of hydrogen and helium.
What does that tell us?
That tells us that there was a cataclysmic event at some point in the past.
A singular event?
A Big Bang event. And that is the name attached to the most current theory on the universe. It's the Big Bang theory. Through observation with the Hubble Space Telescope, we have been able to see that the galaxies are expanding, one away from the other. Now, there's a few exceptions to that.
Now, why is that significant, that the cosmos is expanding?
The cosmos is expanding because it came from a central point, and that central point is called a singularity.
Singularity.
A singularity, and that
Do
singularity.
they know what that is?
We don't know what that is, and it is obviously, ultimately, and eternally dense, but it can never be seen because it emits no light.
Huh.
The universe is expanding at a slower pace, and eventually, so the theory goes, it will then begin to collapse.
Now, that's got
itself.
all kinds of wheels turning in my mind now, from a theological perspective. The source of all this is this quote-unquote singularity.
Yes.
The singularity has no light. It's dark.
No light.
And throughout God's word, we find an emphasis on light. Just about hundreds of times throughout the 66 books of the Bible, we'll see references to light, leading up to, at one point, Jesus says, I am the light. He brings the light to a darkened world. That just seems to be a rather ironic coincidence to me.
Well, my view is this singularity that is theorized is a logical development of what we observe in the cosmos. Our universe is moving outward, each galaxy away from another, from a central point. And that central point has been termed the singularity. It is totally and completely unexplained. It's a puzzle to cosmologists and astronomers.
I think if they change that pronoun "it" to "he," they might start to understand who it is behind all of this.
I think my personal opinion is that many former doubters of the existence of an intelligent design have been swayed and turned around by the discoveries that they have made, resulting in the Big Bang Theory.
Fascinating.
Yes, it is.
Now, what does Genesis say about this? The word Genesis means beginnings. And the first four words in the Bible are these: in the beginning, God. So God was at the beginning. We're saying that everything comes from the sovereign God of the universe. So do these two, does this theory and this biblical fact, do they coalesce? I think they might. I think at some point the science of all this would get back to the theology of all this. So when it says, in the beginning, God, that simple statement in itself is a challenging concept because it says that there's someone greater than us. There's someone more powerful than us. There's someone who is omnipotent and creative. And he created this entire universe. Now, our galaxy alone that I believe that God created is traveling at 490,000 miles per hour. And if you imagine that even at that speed, it will take 200 million years to make one rotation. And our little galaxy, by the way, is one of over 1 billion galaxies in the cosmos.
Bill, that's so far we have observed.
Yes. There may be more you're saying.
There may be more. But in addition to the galaxy rotating, and our solar system is in one arm of this rotating galaxy, in addition to that, the Earth is moving around the sun as the galaxy spins, and the moon is orbiting the Earth at a different speed and a different inclination. So there's a lot of movement in the universe. Not all of it in tandem, some retrograde, some out of sync with some of the other movements, but it all meshes so beautifully.
It does.
It does.
The late Dr. D. James Kennedy talked about the sun, the moon, and the earth. And he said if Earth were just 1 degree farther from the sun, it would freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And if it were 1 degree closer to the sun, it would burn.
Yes.
And he said the crust of the earth, comparably from a physics standpoint, is as thin as the peeling on an apple. What was his point? His point was everything was perfectly created by God for him to create life on this planet, not only to create life, but created men and women in his own image.
Yes.
And that blows my mind. But he did that. That creator of all this cosmos. So he didn't need to. He chose to do that. So it's amazing to me that millions of people on planet Earth, they're on their journey of life, and they never wrestle with what we're talking about today. And that is this. If this is true, if he did create us, and if he's not an absent landlord, in other words, if he's still involved in our lives, then it calls for us to make a response to him. Because after all, he is our creator. He gives us every heartbeat, every beat of pulse, the air in our lungs. It's all comes from him. So even though the Bible doesn't discuss evolution, it proves it wrong. But if you examine the two from a biblical worldview, evolution couldn't be right, because it says very clearly in God's word that he created us man and woman, and from that creation, we've existed these several years to the point now that we can look back to the tunnel of time and say, he created us, and we need to recognize that in our lives. Go ahead, Cliff.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I have always been impressed and in awe of the fact that in Genesis, we see that the first act of God is, let there be light. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the big bang of the singularity. Prior to that, darkness covered the face of the deep.
Yes. So, not only does the Bible give us how we were created, but then there's something else remarkable, and it's a bonus. We can know our Creator personally. Imagine that. Of all the billions of creation, we can know him personally. What does that mean? That means he created us in our mother's wombs. His fingerprints are all over us. He has an exact detail of who we are, and he wants what's best for us. So as we read the Bible, as ancient as it is, it's as modern as tomorrow's newspaper. Well, we've just scratched the surface today on where we're headed with this vlog, and we hope to very soon come to episode 2. And in episode 2, we'll do what we did today. That is, we'll examine what science and say, what is said in the secular world, and then mesh that and put that and beside what the sacred word says and make sense of all this. Until that time, stay close to God. He is, after all, the one who created you.
Thank you, gentlemen, with this insightful conversation. What is this thing called life? Please tell a friend about this podcast here on our website and continue to watch for future podcasts with the addition of video. Also, you're cordially invited to attend our church service Sunday mornings at 10:30, the New Horizons Church, on Sunday mornings at the Holiday Inn, 400 2nd Avenue, South Charleston. Thank you for listening.